So what we're doing on this bike today is I'm going to change the ignition coil, because I've gone through like 3 different carbs, a bunch of different jetting, and it still bogs when you goose it. So the coil is in battery compartment, bolts are under the fuel tank, and to unbolt the fuel tank I do have to move the exhaust out of the way. So I got the fuel tank lifted up, and those are the 2 nuts I have to remove to drop the ignition coil. So I've just got it tilted up. I didn't unhook any lines because it's full of fuel, and should be able to get on that with a ratchet wrench. So I've got the ignition coil loose here. Let's pull it out as much as I can. Plug the single wire in here. And then the plug wire on this one it unthreads and pulls out of the coil. Doesn't look that old, but doesn't look new either. I think I should be able to. There's a little seal on the plug wire that I think I can pull off. Maybe. Yeah, there it goes. And I can pull the little threaded cap off. And then, assuming nothing's holding it, I should be able to feed it out through there. Just like that. Alright, so I got this other bike, or other coil from one of the parts bikes. And I ohmed out the one I took out in this one, and they're pretty close, so I may not actually have a problem, but I figure I already got it apart, might as well try it. Okay, I'll just slide this back into place. Kind of temporary like for now. Put some things back in. And then we'll kick it over and see if that's made any difference. So I do have the battery disconnected. Normally you don't want to do that on these bikes, because the battery is the voltage regulator, but every single bulb in this bike is burnt out because by the time you hit half throttle it was putting out like 30 volts DC. So I have no bulbs to burn out, so I'm not too worried about running it without a battery, but normally you don't want to do that. So let's see if this will fire. Oh, it'll help if I put the spark plug boot back on. Yeah, that usually helps. Alright, so in that last clip, after changing the ignition coil, it was still bogging, but I've had it idling and warming up for about 10 or 15 minutes playing around with some wiring, and you know what? I couldn't do that before. It would bog out, so it seems like that's fixed our problem. So I've been messing around with the wiring, trying to make it charge properly, because I had been getting like tons of voltage, too much voltage. It just popped every bulb in this bike. So I've got this universal regulator rectifier from Dr. ATV, and he sells it for installing clone Honda motors in CT70s, which are 12 volt and retaining the 6 volt electrical system of the Honda CT70. And to use it I had to make a little bit of modification to the stator, because on the CT110 you have two outputs from the charge coil that both go into the rectifier. So I had to ground one output, which is one end of the coil, and the other end of the coil, or the other output, goes as the input to my little regulator rectifier there. And then it comes out to the battery, and even with it hooked up like that, before plugged into this old battery, which used to hold a charge, it was going up to like 20 volts by half throttle. But anyway, I decided to check this battery just to make sure, and sure enough, it's completely dead. As soon as you take charge power off of it, it goes back down to 0 volts. So even though I was holding the charge 2-3 weeks ago, it's packed it in. So I plugged in this deep cycle, which, yeah, it's a little hokey, but it's the only battery I had around without having to steal it from another bike. And I get nice steady voltage. Obviously this makes it sit at 12 volts, but it doesn't go any bit higher than 12. So we got ourselves a solution there. We got to order a new battery. Had to order it about that size because there isn't a ton of room in this compartment with all the other electrical. But that's going to be it for this video. It's getting dark, so thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Alright, so I lied. Couldn't help it. I went out and bought a new battery, filled it, charged it, got it wired in here, and you can see it idle, or right at about 7 volts. And it barely creeps up. Normally by that point, it would have already been past 10, so we got ourselves a fix. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed.